Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 3, The Burning Mill. So, as always, there are definitely going to be a huge amount of spoilers in this video because I'm going to be talking about every damn thing that happened in this particular episode. Oh boy, a lot happened. And yeah, my notes for every video just keep getting worse and worse, you guys, because I have a whole page here, and it almost was 2 whole pages. My God, I can barely read my handwriting because I was just writing so much. My hand hurt after a while. And yeah, I decided to wear the Black Council t-shirt today. Last week, I decided to support Team Green, and I wore the Green Council shirt. I'm looking forward to just switching my shirts every video, like Team Green, Team Black, Team Green, Team Black. Because seriously, I really like both. It's kind of hard for me to choose. I ultimately support Team Black because I do think Rhaenyra is in the right, but oh god, Team Green is just so interesting, you guys. I think Team Green has the most interesting, compelling, nuanced characters. So that's why I like Team Green, is because of just the acting, the acting alone for Team Green and the complexity of the characters. And I think they have like the sexiest people too, let's be real. Okay, so when I saw that the title of this episode was The Burning Mill, I was like, the hell? Why is it called The Burning Mill? But then when I went back and was looking at the very first scene, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I had a delayed reaction to what the significance of The Burning Mill was, because I thought the title of this episode, because I was trying to figure out what the title would be, I thought it was going to be Sin Begets Sin, because that's a really great line by Simon Strong later when he's talking to Damon. He says something about sin begets sin begets sin. I thought that was going to be the title of the episode. So yeah, The Burning Mill, I was like, well, that's kind of lackluster, but I get it now. So let's see, we open up this episode, and last season we were introduced to the feud between the Brackens and the Blackwoods, and it gets pretty bad at the start of this episode. The Brackens and the Blackwoods, they meet. They're both on totally different sides. One's Team Green, one's Team Black, and it falls apart from there, you guys. And I loved what the show did here. They didn't show a battle, which was interesting. Instead, once the swords are drawn, the next cut that we have, we see this field, and there's just bodies littering this entire field. And yeah, the mill in the background that looks like it was on fire at some point, because there's like still smoke coming up from it. I love the juxtaposition here with how the episode starts, and the scene is really bright, and it's well lit up, and it's kind of colorful. And then I like how that color shifts, because then all of a sudden it's dark and dreary and gray and misty. And yeah, I like how, even though the mill is just in the background of this entire scene, in the front half of the scene, once again, being well lit up and it's whole and intact, and then, the next moment, falling apart and burning and smoldering, I thought this was a really well done opening sequence to the show, and really effective without doing much of anything. You just have to see that dynamic, the feuding going on, and then that cut to the bodies, just the bodies everywhere, and silence. I don't even think there's any music playing. There's no music playing, just kind of natural sound like wind and birds, just so effective and well done, and really gets you in a nice place here at the start of the episode. So then we move on to the twins, the Cargill twins. They are being buried side by side, as they should be, guys. Oh, Lord, the Cargill twins. I'm glad we got this nice little moment here, and, the characters kind of reflecting on this whole thing, like, what the hell just happened? I like, once again, Rhaenys is just so intelligent. She's kind of the Otto Hightower of Team Green, or Team Black, in some ways. Rhaenys, she immediately realizes, yeah, I know Otto Hightower. He's an intelligent and smart enough man. This whole mess here with the twins, this is not Otto's doing. Otto did not order this attack. Rhaenys knows that one of the younger members of Team Green had to have done something with this, one of the younger men, because as she says something about, blood running hotter in youth. Now, yeah, she's not quite sure who did this, because I think she's probably suspecting that it is Aegon who maybe ordered this, but yeah, little does she know that it was Kristen Cole who ordered this. So I like that Rhaenys immediately is kind of, yeah, like, oh, poor Otto, yeah, he certainly didn't do this. And a really good line here, this was just a really good Rhaenys scene in general. She says to Rhaenyra as they're watching this burial, soon they will not remember what started the war in the first place. Like Simon Strong says later in the episode, sin begets sin begets sin. That's essentially what's going on here with Rhaenyra and Rhaenys as they're discussing what has happened here. Sin begets sin begets sin, because Rhaenys is saying, as this war progresses deeper and deeper, we're not even going to remember how we even got to this point. What even started it? How far back do we go? Where did it start? And yeah, she lists off event after event, going back in history. Where did it technically start? So it's really fascinating, I think. And Rhaenys is also advising Rhaenyra, we need to maybe try and come in contact with Alicent in some way. You need to read her letters, because Rhaenys, she knows Alicent. She's spent a lot of time with Alicent in her own way, and I think Rhaenys knows that Alicent doesn't particularly really want bloodshed. I think Alicent kind of wants peace in her own way too. If they can avoid death and chaos, the better. So Rhaenyra is still really angry and bitter, with Alicent, and not quite sure how she feels at the end of the day. But Rhaenys is kind of urging, hey, we need to try some diplomacy here, and you need to respond to her letters. Maybe y'all can come to some sort of agreement. And again, bringing up the fact that Alicent is in a court full of men who are using and manipulating her, which is true. Okay, so Kristen Cole, you guys, oh Lord, last week's episode with poor Kristen Cole, dear God, he's like the internet's most hated person right now, Kristen Cole. Fabian Frankel, he's doing a good job. If people are hating Kristen Cole that much, Fabian Frankel is definitely doing a remarkable job. Now, people are comparing their hatred for Kristen Cole to their hatred of someone like Joffrey, and I think that's a little extreme. I don't think Kristen Cole is anywhere near as extreme like Joffrey or even Ramsay. I feel like I hated Joffrey and Ramsay way more than I do Kristen Cole, because the thing with Kristen Cole, even though he has done some horrible, despicable things, and the way he talks about Rhaenyra, the thing is, I think Kristen Cole, he's compelling in his own way. How believable he is. I think he's so believable, and he's so incredibly flawed and human in his actions and his motives. That's what makes him such a good villain, I think. So I just don't really find him to be as despicable a villain as someone like Ramsay and Joffrey, because Ramsay and Joffrey were absolute sadists, you guys. They were absolute sadists and monsters, and I just don't think of Kristen Cole that way. Him being a complete monster, I think there's still humanity in him, because like Ramsay and Joffrey, no humanity. They had absolute no humanity, and Kristen Cole, I think there is humanity. I mean, he saw that bloody bed of Jaehaerys go by, and you could see that guilt and shame in him. And yeah, now that he's Hand of the King, he doesn't know what to do with that. And I think even Fabian Frankel was mentioning, Kristen Cole, now that he has this role, he doesn't know what to do. He was not born to this, and he's faced with a lot of anxiety, which I would be anxious about having a role like that too, because he is not suited for this role. He knows he's not suited for this role, but what can he do? Refuse the king? So yeah, Kristen Cole is now Hand of the King. He's arriving at his first day at the small council, and I like how he's kind of maneuvering through the castle, because nobody respects him. Everyone's really reluctant with their respect. You can totally tell. So the talk at the small council, it immediately goes into the whole feud of the Brackens and the Blackwoods, and everybody just feels a certain way about this battle, because it's rather unfortunate. And Aegon's like, you know what, this is a victory for us. I'll take it as a win. But yeah, the rest of the council is like, this isn't really a victory for us. This family has been feuding for like centuries, at this point. They have always had this feud, and it just so happened that they were both on opposing sides of Team Green and Team Black. So yeah, Aegon don't care. He just sees this as a victory. And Criston Cole, his plan, once again, Criston Cole, he is a military man. Everything that he's going to be putting forth is going to be strategy. He's not going to have no common sense about other things. So his strategy and his plan, he thinks that they should subdue the Riverlands, and kind of as they're doing that, then they take Harrenhal, because as we know, Daemon's in Harrenhal. And Aegon does mention here that he wants to ride off into battle, and Aemon does mention at some point, we need you here. We don't need you dead. That would be even worse. And yeah, Alicent the whole time, Alicent's trying to kind of put her voice and opinion into things, and no one's really listening to her, because yeah, she thinks a lot of this is just way too bold, and it's moving too quickly. So one of the next scenes that we get a nice little scene where Rhaenyra is thanking Mysaria. I'm glad that Mysaria it seems like she's back on the show, because I was curious what happened last week's episode, because she saw Team Green Eric go by her, and she did say, oh, give me a moment, to like the guy who out of the little boat, but we didn't see what Mysaria did. So what we did not see is that Mysaria, it seemed like she did turn around and she went to go tell somebody, hey, I just saw one of the twins sneak into the building. So Rhaenyra does thank Mysaria for practically saving her life, totally. And Mysaria is like, well, you know what? I think you can give me something in return. Can I be on a part of your council? That would be nice. And Rhaenyra, I like Rhaenyra because she's like, excuse me. But she's kind of reluctant about it, but I think she kind of gives into it, like, you know what? You have helped me. You are beneficial. I think I could use you. And yeah, Mysaria, even though she was totally planning on just leaving and heading off to Pentos or wherever she was going, Mysaria's, it's like she's kind of had this turnaround, like, you know what, after this whole thing, I want to get revenge. She wants to punish the Hightowers, is what she says. And she says she knows the struggles of the small folk, because she spent all that time, down there in the brothels and in Flea Bottom and all those places. She knows how the people struggle, and the Hightowers are responsible for that struggle. So I like that Mysaria is part of the inner workings now, because I think she's going to be really pivotal. And as I've said for 2 videos now, Mysaria is one of those characters that I'm really indifferent to. I don't really particularly care about for her, but if the show keeps giving her little moments like this where she gets to shine and she gets to reveal more and more aspects of herself, then I'm totally here to really enjoy Mysaria as a character. So we move on. Rhaenyra, she realizes she needs to remove all of her children. She needs to remove any obstacle that is going to emotionally affect her, which I don't blame her, because she already lost Luke, and then even on Team Green, they lost Jaehaerys. So that's the death of 2 innocent children. And the thing is, this blood feud going back and forth between these families, this feud is going to escalate, and the potential to just lose more of the children. And Rhaenyra has the common sense to be like, okay, I'm sending everybody away. And I think she's pretty much saying that she's sending them all to Lady Jane Eyre, I think is what she was saying. So she's sending Joffrey and little Viserys and little Aegon, I think is the kids' names. She's sending all of them to Lady Jane Eyre, which I believe that actress has been cast, so I'm looking forward to seeing her. And she wants Rhaena to escort these kids, and she wants Rhaena to be with them and protect them. And poor Rhaena almost sees this as a bit of an insult. It hurts her deep down, because she wants to be here at the heart and the core of the action and what's going on. She thinks this is just a babysitting job, and she feels like it demeans her and belittles her. And the thing too, she feels like everybody sees her like she has no use and no function, just only as a babysitter, because she doesn't have a dragon. The egg, as we've seen in both seasons, like the egg that she has, it never hatched. So she feels like this is just a big insult, unfortunately. But yeah, Rhaenyra is really trying to tell her, hey, don't look at it like that. You're doing something really helpful and beneficial here. So let's talk about Daemon's arrival at Harrenhal, because this is so good. The set design, just the way all of this was filmed and shot, it's dark, It's rainy, you can't see much of anything, but Damon looks like a badass. His dragon looks like a badass. It's so good. I love just the sound design, because I don't think there's really any music playing. It's kind of just that rain. You just hear that drizzle of rain and the thunder and lightning and whatnot. So Damon arrives at Harrenhal, and there's not much of a fight put up at all. There literally is no fight. He's just kind of walking through. Even he looks a little confused, like, is there anybody here? Because I was starting to think that too. I was like, is there anybody even here? But once he does finally make his way to like the inner chamber, there is a group of people, all sitting at a table and enjoying their dinner, and here comes Damon with his sword raised, looking like a crazy man just coming out of the rain. So this is where we're introduced to Simon Strong. And Simon Strong, I had to make in my notes here to get all the family relationship here. Lionel Strong was his nephew. So that's how that worked out. Let's be clear. I had to be clear because I was like, I'm confused about how all these people are related. Simon Strong, played so wonderfully by Simon Russell Beale. You guys, Simon Russell Beale is always just such a pleasure whenever he is in just any random movie or television show that I see him in. This whole sequence is played rather comedically in some ways, out of all of the dreariness going on in the episode, because Damon just comes walking in, and Simon Strong just immediately stands up and he gets on his knees and pledges his fealty to Team Black. And like, here you go, Harrenhal is yours, go ahead. Would you like to sit down and eat with us? That was so brilliantly done. I loved it. And something that really irks Damon during this entire conversation with Simon Strong, Simon Strong keeps saying "my prince," and Damon has to be like, "It's my grace" or "your grace," and Simon Strong is a little kind of perplexed by that, like, we thought you were just maybe a consort, This is Damon really trying to raise his position and station kind of higher than what it actually is. It really says a lot about Damon, And I loved that Larys was brought into this conversation, because seriously, Larys is one of those characters that he's almost very easily forgettable in his own little weird way, but he's a big pivotal character. I like that they brought up Larys, because Damon is questioning the loyalty to Larys. Like, hey, Larys Strong is kin to you, but he's over there on Team Green. How am I supposed to believe that you're not Team Green as well? And Simon Strong immediately just disowns Larys, saying, yeah, he's responsible for the death of my nephew and his son, blah, blah, blah. We owe no allegiance to him or Team Green. And that was really fascinating to me, because is it common knowledge that Larys killed his father and brother? That he's responsible for the burning of Harrenhal? I found that a little kind of bizarre that it did. It felt like it was common knowledge. Unless it's not common knowledge, just Simon Strong maybe putting the pieces together and realizing that's what happened, realizing the true nature of Larys, which isn't obvious to a lot of people except for his own family. I don't know. I have a lot of questions about that. And once again, that's where we get that really fantastic line from Simon Strong, where they're just in there, the back and forth with the conversation, and he says, sin begets sin begets sin. Ooh, yeah. Amazing line of dialogue right there. Seriously, Simon Russell Beale, just a joy to watch on the show. I hope we get more of him. Okay, so we move back to King's Landing. Everybody is heading out, marching out to do what they need to be doing, and this is where we're finally introduced to Gawain Hightower, Alicent's older brother? Is he older or younger? I don't know. Either way, it's Alicent's brother. Gawain Hightower, played so lovely by Freddie Fox. I adore Freddie Fox. Seriously, anybody, if you've seen like The Great, or you need to go watch The Great, Freddie Fox is in The Great, and I loved him in that. Gawain Hightower, I instantly just kind of fell for him in this moment, because he immediately just takes no bullshit from Kristen Cole, because Gawain Hightower knows his place and his privilege, and knows that Kristen Cole is a nobody who just all of a sudden rose up into something and took the role that rightfully belonged to Otto Hightower, his father, So, yeah, Gawain Hightower, he's vicious in his own way, with his cutting words and his cutting remarks, without, like, outwardly being hateful. You know, he's still so pleasant and happy, and he has a smile on his face as he's speaking, you know. So I liked that even better. And yeah, Kristen Cole's like off to the side, you know, shamed. And before everybody does finally march out of King's Landing, Kristen Cole does go up to Alicent, and he's asking for, you know, a special favor, and she gives him like her little handkerchief. And overseeing this, Gawain Hightower oversees this interaction. So I feel like there's going to be something crazy that happens, because I think Gawain Hightower knows he's not an idiot. Okay, so then we move into Rhaenyra's small council scene, and there's just a lot of arguing and bickering here, and yet all the men trying to put their own opinions in and not really caring what Rhaenyra's opinion is. Her small council, they really want quick action too. You know, they want to get going with this because they know that Team Green is obviously making their moves, and they feel like they need to make their moves too. And their easy solution is, hey, we just need to throw out the dragons, start using these dragons, and start killing and burning, you know, all these people who are disloyal to you, who are Team Green. And Rhaenyra is very reluctant. She thinks that's kind of a wrong move, which I totally understand. You can't just go around just willy-nilly burning and killing people, you know. There needs to be more to it than that, you know. There needs to be more tact. And yeah, she knows that Daemon is at Harrenhal, and I think her thing is she wants to build up her army. You know, she needs to really build up her army. She needs to let Daemon have time to kind of recruit some of their army, or else they're going to be nothing. You know, their dragons can only do so much. We do have a very, 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 very quick scene with Corlys and Rhaenys. I almost feel like this scene didn't necessarily have to be there. This is kind of one of those random scenes in the episode that kind of slowed down the pacing of the show for me. Does anybody else feel like they just don't know what to do with Corlys at the moment? Like, I feel like they have a lot of interesting things going on with Rhaenys, because Rhaenys plays such a really good role within the small council, but like Corlys just hasn't really been functioning much into anything, and it feels like they're just trying to kind of throw him in to give him something to do. I mean, it was still an interesting scene in its own way, because him and Rhaenys are talking about, you know, who should rule Driftmark, and Rhaenys actually thinks Rhaena should be Lord of Driftmark, but Corlys is still on the whole thing, no, it should be Joffrey, even though they both totally know that Jace and Luke and Joffrey, those were Harwin Strong's children, you know, they both totally understand that, and they know that, but yeah, Corlys is still kind of stuck on the thing that he sees those children as Laenor's, even though they weren't. You know, he is still tied to Laenor in his own way, and he can't move past that, I suppose. So yeah, it was just a really quick scene, and yeah, kind of this sense of fear and urgency that they're facing, because they could die at any moment. You know, they could die. Rhaena could die. Joffrey could die. You know, anybody could die, and what's the point of planning? So moving on, Rhaena is heading out with all the kids. Baela is repeating to her sister, hey, you're doing a great service for us. And yeah, she's also being sent off with the eggs. She's being sent off with the eggs to protect the unhatched eggs, because they're going to need more dragons, possibly. So yeah, once these dragons hatch and grow, they're going to be very, very useful if they ever hatch. And I'm just curious, are any of these eggs supposed to be Daenerys's eggs? Because the coloring on some of them looks like the colors of Daenerys's dragons. Now, there were 4 eggs in there, so I'm assuming the possibility one of those is going to hatch, and then the other 3 might remain, because I'm wondering if that could be Daenerys's dragons. Maybe. I could be mistaken. And before she does depart, Rhaenyra does speak to Rhaena really quickly, saying, hey, you're our best hope for the future, and that kind of lifts up Rhaena a little bit more, you know, like, okay, this is my duty, it is an honor in its own way, because I'm ensuring the safety and protection of the future of our family, essentially. And that was a really touching goodbye between Rhaenyra and her children, because she goes to each of her children, she hugs them, she kisses them on the forehead, and that just really says so much about Rhaenyra as a mother compared to Alicent as a mother, because we've seen, just even in the last episode alone, Alicent is not the most affectionate of mothers. She's kind of shut herself down and off from her children, weirdly enough, because like Aegon is sobbing in his room at the end of last week's episode, and Alicent doesn't go up to him. She doesn't hug him. She doesn't comfort him when he clearly needs that. And then Aemond, in the meantime, is spending his time in the brothel with you know, the madam and whatnot, getting his comfort and love in that way. And it seems like she does have her moments with Helena. It seems like she's able to connect with Helena, I think because the two of them both being women. I think that's kind of just it. The two of them both being women, the two of them both being mothers. I think Alicent is able to connect with Helena a little bit better, but still it's not the most affectionate. So yeah, Alicent is not the most affectionate of the mothers, so I like seeing this part. Rhaenyra is very upset to see her children depart and leave, and it's devastating and upsetting for her on so many levels. But it must be done. She knows that she's the queen. This must be done. So yeah, the fact that she's hugging and kissing her children goodbye just says so much more about Rhaenyra as a mother, I think. So speaking of Alicent and Helena, we do move into their scene next, which was quite nice. It's just a really quick moment. Helena is talking about that horrid procession from the last episode, and Helena, you know, questioning her grief, questioning the grief of the people. You know, like why do they have more grief than I do? You know, as if my grief is not the most important. They're acting like their grief is more important. You know, Helena has kind of shut herself off as well, and weirdly almost dismissed the death of Jaehaerys, because she even mentions, you know, babies die all the time, we gotta move on from that. And I don't think that's a really healthy mindset at all. You know, it's not healthy for her to be thinking that way about the death of her own child. You know, I think she's still in shock. I think she's still in shock, and she's trying to process it emotionally as best she can, and I think just dismissing it is what's working for her, you know. And I really like this moment too, because Alicent says to her, you know, I loved Jaehaerys, but my concern is more for you and what you're going through. And like I said, it seems like she has a bit more affection for Helena than she does like Aegon and Aemond, you know. And Helena just out of nowhere says to Alicent, I forgive you. What does she forgive her for? I think for us, the viewer, we immediately want to jump into the thing that she's forgiving Alicent for what she saw that night, that she was in bed with Kristen Cole. You know, I think that's what we want to believe Helena is forgiving her for. But is that what she's forgiving her for? Or is it something else? You know, just their entire life in general, you know, how they've been treated. Or there's also the possibility we know Helena can see things in the future. Is Helena just forgiving her for what is to come? You know, because I mean, as we see at the very end of this episode, that whole conversation with Rhaenyra and Alicent, I mean, is that what Helena is kind of saying? I forgive you, you know, I forgive you for what is to come with this terrible war, because it's not your fault, you know. So I'm curious what exactly she's forgiving Alicent for, because the immediate conclusion could be the whole thing with Kristen Cole, but it could be something more deeper and meaningful, I think. So let's move to our one scene of Larys that we tend to get every single episode. Larys has been in every episode, like maybe once or twice, but I think the show and the writers have done a really good job of making like his one random scene like really integral and pivotal. Larys, he goes to Aegon. Aegon is in there trying on his armor and getting suited up because he wants to go off into battle and fight. And Larys, once again, just his brilliant manipulations, just the way he words things, you know, without being totally obvious about it. And he's making the suggestion, hey, my king, if you go out there, that leaves Alicent and Aemond, that they could possibly be in charge while you're gone. Do you want that? And we know how Aegon would feel about that. Obviously, he would not like that. He is the king. He already has a lot of insecurities being king as it is. And the fact that if his mother or his brother was in charge would really leap up his anxieties and his vulnerabilities right there. So I really like that moment with Larys putting that suggestion in there, because then the next thing that happens, Aegon's like, yeah, I think I'll stick around here for a while and see how things go. And Larys, before he does depart, he is made the Master of Whispers, which is like their version of, like, you know, MI5 or whatever. They're spy masters. So, oh Lord. And we do have a really quick, hilarious scene right here. Aegon, all of his buddies, they have all been promoted to like being part of the Kingsguard and whatnot. And they're sitting there talking about, oh yeah, let's go down to the brothels and, you know, go sleep around. And Aegon, he's like, you vowed celibacy. And the guys are like, oh yeah, no one really does that. And they're just sitting there laughing hysterically about it. And Aegon's like, no, I'm serious, you're supposed to be celibate. And I think it's in that moment those guys realize, oh shit, what have we done? So then we move to a tavern down in Flea Bottom, and I believe this character, his name is Ulf, I think is what his name is, when I've heard other people talking about this guy. Ulf is in the tavern, and we did briefly see him really quickly last week because he was there during the scene with all the rat catchers who were hung up. He was there because he was asking like a passing lady, hey, what's happened here? Who are all these guys, you know? Ulf is claiming he has Targaryen ancestry. And I had to write this down as well to kind of get what he was saying because I was trying to follow. He was saying that he is the son of Balon Targaryen, who was the bastard brother of Daemon and Viserys. So yeah, he in turn is a bastard of a bastard, it sounds like. It's really complicated, but he's still some version of a Targaryen. That is what he is claiming. Is he really? I guess. I think the show is trying to set up all of these various different Targaryens that are not pure Targaryen, even if they're bastard children, because we know Aegon has a bunch of bastard children running around. Yeah, this guy Ulf, I know there's supposed to be some others that haven't been introduced, I don't think. I've kind of been spoiled about a few things about other Targaryens. And it's here that Aegon and his lackeys, they come into the tavern and they're like, hey, drinks for everybody. And oh Lord, I thought for sure Ulf was going to get killed right here because everything kind of goes quiet when he's talking about his ancestry. And I thought for sure Aegon had heard it. I don't know if he did. I'm very curious if he heard any of it. So then the next thing that we go into, my God, this scene, you guys, not only do they go out for drinks, but they move to the brothel next. And I just knew this was not going to turn out well because we saw, you know, the last episode, Aemond was with the madam of the brothel. We know what he's been doing in his spare time to get his own attention and love and affection, you know, because he's not getting it from his family. I was like, oh no. I was like, Aegon is coming in here, he's going to see Aemond, and he is going to just emotionally torture him, and he sure does. There's Aemond, he's with the brothel madam or whatever, and the humiliation, you guys, oh my God. And he's just completely naked, he's vulnerable in this moment, and Aegon, you know, oh my God, Aegon is a horrible brother, you guys. He is an absolutely despicable brother to Aemond, and he just goes right into humiliating his brother and sitting there saying, oh my God, I can't believe you've been with the same woman this entire time, you've never gone out and tried out other women, you know. And you can see that hurt on Aemond's face, and you can almost see behind his one good eye. You can see that he's really trying to control himself, that he doesn't want to jump up and just punch Aegon, you know. I think Aemond would love nothing better than to just punch his brother and beat him to a bloody pulp, you know. But it looks like he is really struggling to control himself, his impulses, you know, because Otto was mentioning that, you know, back in episode 1 about, you know, you need to control your impulses. So Aemond, he's really just vulnerable in this moment, just completely naked, and he stands up, and this is how he reclaims the situation. He just stands up, just full-blown naked in front of everybody, you guys. My God, I was kind of shocked. I had to watch the scene a couple times because I was so shocked with the degree of nudity that we got here from a main character. He just stands up, he reclaims this whole thing, and he basically is like, you know what, here, if your squire, because they're sitting there taking that one squire around to have a good time, he's like, hey, your squire can have her, she's just a whore after all. Whew, my God. And he just walks away, you guys. He just walks away trying to put that mask back on. You know, he puts that mask back on where he's a badass again. You know, he's trying to put on that persona of being an uncaring, unfeeling badass. And that's the problem with this whole fucking family. You guys, none of these people can open up to each other. None of these people, I don't think this family even loves each other. You know, it's absolutely despicable how Aegon treats his brother in this moment. And it's pitiful, you know, it's absolutely pitiful and humiliating. Oh my god, but such a good scene. One of the best scenes with Aemon so far, you guys. So moving on, Bela is out flying around on her dragon. She spots Kristen Cole and Gwaena Hightower. You know, she spots that whole little group. And you know, the previous episode, Rhaenyra was saying, you know, keep high and don't get involved in anything. But what does Bela do? Bela gets down to the ground. She gets right down to the ground. She chases after Kristen Cole and his party, and they head off into the woods, and she loses them. That was pretty scary because I was really concerned about Bela. I mean, I know she has a dragon, you know, but I was still concerned about her because she got down so low on the ground that I was worried if any of them had like a, you know, a bow and arrow or a crossbow or anything, they could have easily shot her. You know, they might not have shot the dragon, but they could have shot her off the dragon. You know, so I was definitely really concerned about her. And yeah, when Bela goes back to Rhaenyra and tells her about this whole thing, yeah, of course Rhaenyra is like, what did I tell you, girl? You should not have done that. Bela is she's bringing back really good, important information, you know, that the Hightowers are on the move and they can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. And then, yeah, that moves into another small council scene because they're all urging once again, hey, we need action now. The Hightowers are moving. Why aren't we moving? Yeah, let's send a party out there, a dragon. Go ahead and kill Kristen Cole now. It could be so quickly, easily done. But once again, Rhaenyra is very reluctant. So moving back to Harrenhal really quickly with Daemon, this hallucination sequence with Daemon was so good, you guys, and some really unexpected things that happened. For starters, when we think he's awake, his door, we get a good look at his door, and he has like a sword going across the door to keep it barred, to keep someone from walking in. You know, that's the most common sense thing anyone has had on this show. You know, put something across your door to keep people from coming in. So Daemon, he starts walking around. He starts like hearing like a voice and like some singing, and he stumbles into a room. And you guys, Millie Alcock, who played young Rhaenyra, is back for like a grand total of like 30 seconds in this episode. And this was just such a really chilling and haunting but effective scene right here with the hallucination, because Daemon, he sees that it's young Rhaenyra, and in her arms, she is sewing back on Jaehaerys's head. You guys, it's graphic, it's very unexpected, it's brutal, it's raw. And then the next thing that happens, Daemon does wake up from this hallucination. I think it just says so much about Daemon, this whole scene, that the fact that he's seeing Rhaenyra as a teenage girl, you know, that it's Millie Alcock and not Emma Darcy, I think it says a lot there. His emotional state of mind and what he's feeling, I think, with Rhaenyra, you know, his own guilt is coming into play in some fashion. He feels bad about what happened to Jaehaerys, because why would he see Jaehaerys' head being sewn up here? You know, he feels bad about it in his own way, even though he doesn't want to admit it. And yeah, when he does wake up, because I guess he was sleepwalking. That one lady that we got a really quick look at when he first entered Harrenhal, she's standing behind him, and she says to him, "You're going to die here," something like that. So is that foreshadowing, you guys? Is Daemon, like, let's see, I have not read the original source material, so I don't know if I really want to know, but does Daemon seriously really die at Harrenhal at some point? Oh my god. Because I think she just predicted the future. I have a feeling she predicted the future. Yeah, who is this lady? She wasn't given a name at all in this episode, so I'm curious what role and function she's going to play in the future, because it seems like she knows things. You know, she can predict the future or something. Is she like Helena? That's what I want to know. Does she have a sort of similar vibe like Helena does? So one of the next scenes, we do see Rhaenyra going to Mysaria, and Rhaenyra, she's under so much pressure. She needs to do something, or she's going to lose control of her council. If she doesn't do something soon, I think she's worried the council is just going to totally revolt against her, and she's going to lose any support that she has at the moment. So she needs to do something. So Rhaenyra goes to Mysaria and is saying, "Hey, help me sneak into King's Landing. How do I sneak into there? Where does Alicent Hightower tend to frequent that I can get her alone?" So Mysaria does tell her all that. she's kind of a little bit reluctant at first, but she does hand it all out. So this is what begins perhaps one of the most stupidest things that could have happened. Even though it was all great though, you know, seriously, everything that happened from this point on was so great. The acting was so great. But Rhaenyra, seriously, what is Rhaenyra thinking? I think this was seriously a really stupid move, even though it puts Rhaenyra in a certain mindset by the end of it, which she needed to be in, but still sneaking into King's Landing, the fear of getting caught, you know, it was kind of just so stupid. They're all sitting there going on about how stupid the whole Eric and Eric situation was. Well, this is just as stupid. So Rhaenyra and one of the guys in her council, they sneak in, and it's a really clever way to sneak in because she's dressed as a septa and he's dressed as a septon. So for starters, a really good way to enter into the whole situation. And they follow Alicent, and she heads into, is that the Red Keep, you guys? I can't get all the buildings straight. There's so many buildings. I think it's the Red Keep. So Alicent heads off into the Red Keep and does her thing with the candle, you know, with the prayers like she always does. Rhaenyra comes and sits by her, and yeah, you almost think it's going to go bad. It's going to go downhill because Alicent could have easily just started screaming. You know, she could have started screaming bloody murder, and her guards would have come in and just taken out Rhaenyra instantly. But it's all really kind of relaxed initially. And Rhaenyra is saying, hey, we need to come to terms here. We need peace. And they both want each other to just surrender. You know, they both just want each other to surrender. But that's so unrealistic, you know. They both want what they think is theirs, what is rightfully theirs. It's too late at this point. You know, that's the unfortunate thing. They can't come to terms now. And I think the best part of this scene, they have this nice moment where, because Alicent is telling Rhaenyra, hey, I heard what I heard with Viserys saying Aegon's name. He never mentioned your name. And it's a really nice moment, and Rhaenyra's listening to this. But then when Alicent mentions the whole thing of the prince that was promised, that cues Rhaenyra in instantly. Oh, I understand now. You misinterpreted what he said. You didn't realize that. This whole thing is a mistake. And she's trying to tell that to Alicent, that what you overheard was a prophecy that my father had heard. The whole Song of Ice and Fire. You misunderstood it. You misinterpreted it. He wasn't talking about your son Aegon. He was talking about something else, you know? So this does, I think this is going to be the start of Alicent, her doubts creeping in. She's not sure if what Rhaenyra is talking about is even true, you know, because she heard what she heard and she interpreted that how she was going to interpret it. So this whole sequence with Emma Darcy and Olivia Cooke, you guys, was just so magnificent, so magnificently acted and staged, because it's just the two of them sitting there at that little thing with the candles, you know, that's all the scene is, and it's just so electric and interesting and intense. Yeah, there can be no peace now. Alicent just gets up and walks away, and what we're left with is Rhaenyra sitting there, and I think now, because she wanted to try this, you know, she wanted to attempt something, and she tried. And I think now she realizes and understands it's too late. We have our own beliefs now and how we have interpreted things. The game's on. The war is on. I think from now, because Rhaenyra has been very reluctant, you know, she's been very, very reluctant to take any sort of action. But now I think moving into this next half of the show, I think she is totally ready to keep moving, and she's ready for war now. She's going to be working with the small council. And I do definitely got to give a shout out to the music that was playing during this ending sequence. We've never heard that music on the show before, I don't think, and it was, oh god, it was beautiful. I loved it. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on episode 3 of House of the Dragon, The Burning Mill. You guys totally talk to me about this episode down below. Spoilers all the way. Did you love it? Did you hate it? And once again, thank you to anybody who takes the time to watch this video, because I know it's long. And remember, playback speed is your friend if you want to get through this video quicker. So guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on House of the Dragon. In the comments below, share with me how you felt. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Just let me know. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.